Hello everyone, welcome back. In case you missed the last two sessions, my name is Sylvie Glatower. I'm here at Balderson Studios. This is the third part of my printmaking demonstration series that I'm recording for Nillumbik Shire Council. I'm going to demonstrate today how to apply a digital colour overlay to your plate. So last week I added colour to my image using a hand tinting technique directly onto the plate, and that technique was called a la poupée colour. The very first session I made a black and white image from the plate. So here's the plate in case you didn't see it. I'm using the same image for all three sessions so that you can see a progression. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to add a colour overlay using a method called Chine Colle, which is a very traditional printmaking technique where you add a second layer of paper to the print when printing. So the technique that I'm going to concentrate is a digital printed overlay, which I will show you how I've done that. And this is a fantastic technique where you can hybridize, incorporate digital overlays with your prints. Working digitally gives you a lot of flexibility as far as control and what colors you use, and so many possibilities. So I'll bring you up closer to the monitor and I'll show you the process. Okay, just to briefly show you what I've done on screen to create my colour. This is not intended as a Photoshop tutorial as such, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview. So I am working in Photoshop, and I've used my original image underneath that you can see here, the black and white, to create layers of colour, which I have just randomly picked the colours that I think would suit this image, and I've used brushes to paint in certain areas of those colours to create a layer which will end up looking like this, which I will then print on the inkjet printer. So just bear with me and you'll understand how this process works as you see the print develop. Okay, so I'm printing the image that was on screen, the color layer rather. It doesn't have an image as such. It's just a gradated series of colors. I'm printing it onto a paper, which is a Hosho paper. This is a paper that's a Japanese paper that's traditionally used for watercolor or for woodblock printing. For this technique, you need quite a thin paper, but not too thin that it won't go through the inkjet printer. So the inkjet printer that I'm using is a pigment-based inkjet printer, which means that the inks are light fast and archival. It also means that these inks can be dampened if necessary. So you could actually just print directly onto your etching paper and dampen the paper before you print your plate as well as printing on a separate piece of paper. So whenever I do any of these techniques, I'm always very aware that all of my materials are archivally sound. So the inkjet printer, I wouldn't use a dye-based inkjet printer. I would use a professional quality pigment inkjet printer, and I'll also take care that the papers that I use are cotton papers and are suitable for longevity. So that's the result that has come out of the printer, and I'll now carefully cut this out and take you over to the plate making area, to the printing rather of the plate, and we'll add this colour onto our final image. Thank you. I've cut my Chine Colle paper to size carefully with a knife and ruler. I'm just going to dampen the back and add some adhesive to the paper so that it sticks to my etching paper on the press. So just a fine layer of water, and I'm going to sprinkle some methyl cellulose, which is a fantastic way of adhering paper to paper in an archival way again. So I'm not going to use any other sort of adhesives that might not be acid free or so forth. Methyl cellulose is completely acid free and reversible, which makes it archivally sound. So just a fine layer of this white powder. Can hardly see it going on, but that's it. I'll just leave that there, and even if it dries, that's fine, because the dampness of my etching paper will activate the glue again. So let's prepare the plate. Just like I did in the first video, I'm going to ink up the plate using rich brown etching ink. This is exactly the same process as before. So the plate is covered with a fine layer thin ink and then wiped back. And I'm wiping back with my tarlatan, pushing the ink into the plate first, making sure that the ink gets into all those grooves of the etched plate. We'll just fast forward this bit. You don't need to see it again, and it takes a little bit of time, so we'll come back when it's inked up and ready to go. So my plate has been inked, and you can see that it's looking very good, as it did before. Just gone around and cleaned the edges as well. Now we'll take it over to the press and apply our Chine Colle paper. I've got everything ready here on the press, as you need to when you're working with these papers. You need to work quite quickly, make sure everything doesn't dry on you, the paper. So this is my colour layer, which I'm positioning on the plate, and I'm just lining it up to the image area that I think I've got fairly right. Little pair of tweezers always helps. So my etching paper is ready. Make sure I put it down on the right side. So the trick here is not to move anything underneath when you're putting down the etching paper. So I usually just walk my finger on the top and hold everything down, put the paper down. My tissue barrier over the top to stop the dampness from transferring onto the blankets. Put the blankets down. In this case, I've done one at a time so that it reduces the risk of things moving underneath. And let's take it through. Time for the big reveal. So that's quite an interesting looking print. It's never totally what you expect, and that's the beauty of this process. You can go back to the computer and refine your color layer, adding different colors or shifting things around, shifting the opacity of the color. If it's too strong, you could just reduce the opacity of the color layers in Photoshop and print out a much subtler in color layer, which I think I will do for the next one. But that's pretty good. It's a good demonstration print. I think that concludes this session and all three printmaking demonstrations. So we started off with a black and white print that we made during our first session from this photo etching plate. We then added colour to the plate by hand with a technique called a la poupée. And then lastly, today I created a second layer digitally by printing it onto a separate piece of paper and then adding it to my print as I printed, a technique called Chine Colle. I actually did two versions of this Chine Colle, so you can see both. Look. So thank you very much for joining me during these short printmaking tutorials here at Balderson Studio. If you'd like to see anything further or give it a go yourself, feel free to drop me a line. Check out our website, baldersonpress.com.au, or my website, sylvie.com.au. And a big thank you to Nillumbik Shire Council for sponsoring these live stream videos. Hope to see you again. Thank you.